إذن حضورنا الكريم بنختتم جلساتنا لهذا اليوم الثاني من قمة المعرفة بجلسة تحمل عنوان خيال الأطفال وقود لمحركات اقتصاد المعرفة. سيحدثنا في ذلك جابور بورت، وهو مؤسس ومدير شركة سلايد شوت، وتدور محاور أيضا هذه الجلسة أو الحديث حول الاستخدام الأمثل للإبداع الطفولي الفطري، وربط الإبداع المنهجي باستراتيجيات ذكية، وتحقيق الحد الأقصى من المشاركة والمساهمة الفكرية للموظفين أيضا. وعلى أمل أن نلقاكم إن شاء الله في قمة أخرى. شكرا جزيلا.
Hello, good afternoon. How's the audio? Can everybody hear me in the back? I know we have a little bit of noise outside. Great. I really enjoyed the presentations before mine, and I think my topic will tie in really well with those. And of course, I also really enjoy coming to Dubai because this is where I come to see the future happen. This is where I can see dreams become reality and where I see imagination turned into innovation. And so it's a perfect environment for the topic that I like to talk to you about, which is something I'm very passionate about. You can see the title, and it's all about this wonderful resource that we all have as individuals as well as organizations. And it's a resource that's incredibly powerful, it's vastly abundant, and it's completely free. And this resource is our creativity, our imagination, but even more specifically, our youthful creativity, our childlike imagination. So this is what I like to talk to you about. But to know you a little bit, let me ask, how many in the audience are from the business sector, so that you're involved in either entrepreneurship or some business, okay? How many in the government sector? Some, and how about education? Okay, wonderful. Okay, so we have a really nice mixed audience, and I think my topic will be equally applicable to everyone here. So, if you're ready, the way I like to start is by showing you a quick video. This video is about an innovation which I think is typical of the knowledge economy. And it's an innovation that was announced a few years ago by Audi, one of the leading car companies. So take a look and see what you think.
Introducing the latest autonomous mobility innovation, the Audi Autonomous Office Chair. The Audi Autonomous Office Chair is designed and engineered for performance, intelligence, and safety. A fully rechargeable 6-kilowatt motor provides rapid acceleration when you need it. Our legendary Quattro system provides dynamic performance, even in adverse conditions. Our engineers spent thousands of hours testing the technology in a wind tunnel, ensuring maximum aerodynamic efficiency. The Audi Autonomous Office Chair syncs seamlessly to your work calendar and knows exactly when and where your next meeting is. A network of biometric sensors predicts when you'll need a coffee break, and it'll take you where you need to go before you even know you need to go. The Audi Autonomous Office Chair features supervisor avoidance technology. Utilizing facial recognition, the chair will detect and avoid your supervisor. And proprietary airbag technology helps protect the driver and the pedestrian. The all-new Audi Autonomous Office Chair. Now you're in the driver's seat. Visit AudiUSA.com for more.
What do you think? Is this something that you would enjoy using? Do you think it might be useful? I see some of you smiling and laughing. Why is that? Well, it's because it's also testing whether you think this is real or not, right? One of the symptoms of the knowledge economy, that innovation happens so fast that sometimes we're not even sure if something is real or not, if it's just a concept or already a product. But before you answer, let me show you two other innovations. Here's one by Google that was announced a couple of years ago. The Google Nose Beta, which would allow us to do searches by smells. So if you're curious what something smells like, Google Nose Beta will allow you to do that. So your smartphone would have the ability, the built-in capability to actually share with you smells. And here's a third innovation by Burger King. This was done in France, where you would have individually wrapped French fry pieces, the point being that they were so good that you had to savor and enjoy each one separately, okay? So take these three innovations together. How many of us think that these are real? So everybody else thinks that they're not real, which is absolutely right. So these innovation announcements and campaigns were meant as a joke. Were meant to make us laugh, make us smile, as well as make people working for these companies smile. The question is why? Why would these very successful companies do this? Why would they waste resources, time and money to make jokes? Why would they risk linking their brand with being funny, with being humorous? After all, business should be very serious, right? Now, before we answer this, let's put things in proper context. We live in a world that was certainly reinforced through all the presentations that is incredibly unpredictable. In fact, this acronym VUCA was created to describe this perfect cocktail of very difficult circumstances: volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. So how are we to navigate whatever we do successfully when we don't know what is going to happen tomorrow? And look at this survey as a result by IBM that asked CEOs from around the world, from all kinds of industries, what do you think is the most important thing you need to be able to do to be successful? And the number one answer was creativity. How fascinating. The heads of the biggest companies did not mention how well do I know my industry, how well do I negotiate, what are my people skills. They said creativity. And if you look at the other points on this chart, it's creativity that they see as essential for the ability of their organizations to succeed. And here's one other survey to complete the picture. 100,000 people were asked, do you think creativity is important? Overwhelmingly, 98% said absolutely. Yet only 45%, less than half, think of themselves as being creative, and only 2% think that their job environment reinforces, nurtures creativity. See the big disconnect? We crave creativity, yet we don't see it. We don't know how to apply it. So now we can answer the first question. Whatever organization you are in, whether you're in business, government, academia, anything else, you can think of your organization as being a vehicle, a car. And your job as its leader is to navigate that car towards the direction of continuous relevance and continuous success. So strategy is like the steering wheel or the navigation system. But in order to move the car in the right direction, you need an engine. And that engine is innovation. And innovation needs fuel. That fuel is creativity. And one of the universal, most important manifestations of creativity is humor. So these forward-thinking, future-shaping companies all understand that if you have humor in your workplace, in your leadership, then you are able to, by definition, create an environment that nurtures creativity, that drives innovation, and then allows you to steer your organization towards ongoing success. So, very interesting. Now let's start tying that together with the main theme about childhood. How often do you think babies laugh a day? What would be your guess? Just pick a number. How many times do you think babies laugh in a single day? Well, studies show that babies laugh 400 times a day. That's a lot of good times. Now, how often do you think adults laugh? More or less? How much less, right? We don't think it's more, but how much less? Look at the drastic difference. People over 35 laugh only 15 times a day and almost never or very seldom at work because we think that work is serious. Very interesting. So then, what does this mean? Well, Thomas Edison, who is considered one of the greatest innovators of all time. In fact, Time magazine named Thomas Edison the man of the millennium, saying that he influenced the progress of the world more than any other person in the last 1,000 years. he invented many things: the electric light bulb, the electric car, the phonograph, motion picture camera, the surfboard, maybe not the surfboard, but all the other things. Now, he was once asked by a reporter, Mr. Edison, you being the greatest innovator of all time, what do you think is the greatest invention? And without hesitation, he gave his answer. What do you think it was? His answer was a child's imagination, right? The greatest inventor thinks and stated without any hesitation that the greatest invention is a child's imagination. How interesting. Now, if we look into that and deep further, then we have others who are weighing in and saying the same thing. Peter Mernholz is a customer experience expert and pretty much is saying the same thing, that everything we need to know about innovation, we already learned in kindergarten when we were 3, 4, 5, 6 years old. Wow. If that's true, then we all have this inner capability to innovate. Well, one thing that we say usually is that the reason that artists are successful is because they are able to hang on to their childhood creativity and continue doing things based on that. And so we kind of put them aside and say they're special in that regard. So Prince, the late great artist, as an example, when they, after his death, they opened up his vault and they found enough music to put out albums for the next 100 years. That's how prolific of an artist he was. That's how much creativity he was expressing. For 100 years, there's enough material for albums to be put out, made by this artist. But when we cross over into the business world, we see the same thing. Igor Sigorsky, the Russian aviation pioneer, had a vision when he was a child on which he based his invention of the helicopter on. And Michelle, just before me, said that her quest of launching rockets also was born from her memory of experiences when she was just 6 years old. So there's a direct connection. It's our choice whether we choose to ignore it or apply it. So when we have a visionary like Steve Jobs says that people don't know what they want until we show it to them, that changes everything. Because that says that from now on, business is not about repetition, it's about continuous creation and innovation. And we're the ones that will imagine the future for our customers, for our target audience. Same thing with Muhammad Yunus, the Nobel Prize winner from Bangladesh, who launched the concept of micro-lending, who showed that it is possible to lend money to the poorest of the poor in a profitable way. And what he says is that the greatest challenge he had to face is to alter the mindset of people, because our minds tell our eyes what to see. How true. And if that is true, then what that means is that we are limiting ourselves in terms of our ability to really innovate and shape the future. So it's really like this image and this statement, that we cannot see the label of the jar that we are within. So if we enclose ourselves in these self-imposed mental boundaries, then we have no way of looking at ourselves and our environment in a way that allows for innovation. So it's all about this notion of our ability to reimagine boundaries. If that is our quest, then let me share with you a quick anecdote from my childhood to show what that means. And apparently this happened when I was about 2 years old. My parents told me this story, that I was playing with a small matchbox, a small car, on a coffee table, and a fly landed right next to where I was playing. It caught my eye, and I think perhaps I've never seen such a creature before. I reached out to touch it, and it disappeared. And my reaction was to look under the table, to see exactly where it has fallen, because that's how I understood the world to work. And it disappeared. I didn't see the fly. This happened 2 or 3 times. Same thing, I look under the table, no fly. But the next time, I didn't look under, and I looked on the wall and saw it. Think about that moment of mental activity that happened that allowed me to do that and allowed all of us to do that, because as children, that's really how we learned the world, how we learned to make sense. We had such flexibility of mind that we were always open to breaking our rules and to new paradigms of how things worked. So why don't we do that as adults? Well, as it turns out, we actually do, but we don't even realize it. Because when we speak, this is what takes place. On average, we say about 20,000 words a day. And every major language consists of hundreds of thousands of words. Another way of looking at that is, imagine that you had a Lego set of over 100,000 pieces, or a toy collection of hundreds of thousands of pieces, and every day you construct a new toy, a new structure using 20,000 of those pieces. Every day when we speak, we're putting these combinations together in absolutely new and creative ways to express new ideas, new thoughts, new concepts. So this is exactly what we learn to do as children, yet we don't give it the right amount of credit. And we certainly don't expand on this so that we think like this in everything that we do, in all the challenges that we face. So with this in mind, I have a quick test for you. Are you ready now? Hopefully you're properly excited and inspired to take this test. I'm going to give you 5 questions. And my challenge to you, this will expose the mental limitations that you put on yourselves, or we put on ourselves. My challenge to you is that no one will get more than 2 of the questions correct. Only 2 out of 5. That's my challenge, right? So let's see how you do. I'm going to show you the 5 questions and ask you to take a mental note or write down your answer. And then at the end, we're going to review and see how well you did. What I'm looking for is your very quick response. So imagine someone out in the hall in a break asking you these questions. What would be your immediate quick response? You ready? First question. What animal would you pick to represent your organization? So whatever you do, think of an animal that you think would represent the right values, the right image for that organization. What would be that animal? Okay, so think of an animal that you would pick. Second question. Very simply, what does your organization do? What do you do? So someone out there asks you, what organization do you work for? What does it do? What would be your answer, right? Your quick, immediate response. What do you do? What does your organization do? Third question, who are your most important competitors? So think about your organization again, and think about who are your most important competitors, right? These are very simple questions which get at the core of how you view your environment and what it is you do. Question number 4, when you think about your customer, your target audience, okay, it could be a student, it could be a citizen, it could be a customer. Think about their experience with you, and how would you define the starting and stopping point of that experience? When they start their experience with you and when they stop. How would you define that? What name would you give it? Starting and stopping, okay? And the last question, on a scale of 1 to 10, how closely do you think satisfying your customers or your target audience is linked to the future success of your organization? If you think the 2 are very closely linked, that would be a 10 or 9. If you think there's no relation between the 2, then it would be a 2, 1, or 0. And you can go in between, of course. Okay? That's the test. Are you feeling confident you can beat 2? Here we go. We're going to take a look. So I'm going to help you out on the first one, and I'm going to show you 3 animals. And what I'd like you to do, if you see the animal you picked, then of course you would vote for that. If you don't see your animal, then just vote for the one that you think is closest to the one that you picked, okay? So let me show you the 3 animals. First one. And I'm going to come back and then ask you to vote for one of the 3. Second one. Third one. Third one, yes. What is this animal, by the way? It's a platypus from Australia, right? So of these three animals, how many of us would vote for the lion? Okay, a good number. How about our second contestant, the eagle? Very nice. And lastly, the platypus. All right, we have a few takers. All right. So a couple of things about a platypus. It's an animal that is pretty weird, right? It's really different. As you can see, it dresses itself, so that's pretty special, right? But actually, when it was first discovered at the end of around 1800, scientists thought it was a joke, that it wasn't a real animal, right? Because it looked like several animals put together, a duck, an otter, and a beaver, just kind of meshed together, right? But here's the thing. If you picked either an eagle or a lion, then what you're really saying is that you think that whatever your organization does is about survival of the fittest, that it's about competition, it's about being, in a sense, in a war environment, and I want to be the strongest, right? And if you have that mentality, then by definition, you're focused on your competitors and not the market, not your customers. So you don't want to go in that direction. Rather, what you want to do is pick an animal that represents what? Flexibility, creativity, reimagining boundaries. And so if you picked this animal, the platypus, for those reasons, those very few in the room that did, then you get a point. Okay, everybody scores themselves, right? So let's go to the second question. I asked you, what does your organization do? How many of us responded with no more than 4 words and in a way that has nothing to do specifically with what your organization does, but rather with how you help to fulfill a very basic, a very core human need or desire? How many answer this question this way? No more than 4 words and in a way that touches a core human value and desire. Okay? That's worth a point. If you had more time, I would love to hear your answers. But here's mine, just to show you what I mean. When we talk about whatever it is we do, I think at the core of that is understanding universally what people want out of life. And I love this quote by a psychologist, David Grossman, who said that the human equation is to multiply joy, divide pain. Pain shared is pain divided. Joy shared is joy multiplied. It's a beautiful statement, but within that is the definition that I would suggest should be what every organization thinks of itself as being in the business in. 4 words. Multiply joy, divide pain. 4 words, right? Doesn't matter what sort of organization that you're in. Does not matter what industry or what sphere. If you can justify that that's what you help people do, that you help to multiply their joy and divide their pain, you will continue to be relevant into the future. If you can't make that justification very strongly or closely, then you better rethink what it is you do. And I love this part about sharing because, again, you have to realize that what you're really after are relationships with your target audience, right? It's not transactions. So let's go back to the third question. Who are your most important competitors? How many of us answered this question not naming any specific competitors, but rather naming things that most occupy the minds and the hearts of your target audience? Things like artificial intelligence that were talked about a lot today and yesterday. Things like living longer. Things like making sense out of this really constantly changing world. How many of us answered it this way? Great. Very few, very few. It's like 2, 3 hands. Because that's what you want to play at. That's what your customers, your target audience is thinking about, and you want to be in their minds, in their hearts. So the closer you can connect whatever you do to those aspirations, those concerns, the better position you will be in. And let's go to the fourth question. starting point and stopping point of a typical experience of your target audience. How many of us answered this, that it has no beginning, it has no end, it's a 24-hour relationship? You did? Wonderful. That is a key point. That it, as I showed you in the previous slide, it's about sharing of joy, sharing of pain. We're social by definition. And the more that you can establish a relationship and have your target audience think of you as caring about their welfare, the better you will matter to them. And lastly, on a scale of 1 to 10, how closely tied is satisfaction to your strategic success? How many of us answered either a 0, 1, or 2? Did I get everybody on this? Okay. Yes, of course, satisfaction matters. Just like quality matters, timeliness matters, customer service matters, but it's not enough. Because why? Satisfaction means I got what I thought I would get, right? Not better, not worse. I got what I thought I would get. Is that really enough to turn your customers into fans, to have an emotional connection? No. Where you want to play is well beyond satisfaction. You want to create emotion like delight, amazement, enchantment, charm. Make people laugh, as I said before. Surprise them. All these wonderful emotions that go well beyond just satisfaction. And companies that understand that are the ones that are winning the hearts of people around the globe and leaving the others behind. All right, so moment of truth. How many of us got one answer right? At least one. At least one. I'm going up. Okay. 2. All right, a few. 3. Come on, I have to check your answers. So we have 1, 3. Any others? Okay. So this is the whole point. I mean, we have a wonderfully diverse and successful group here. And all I did is ask you some very simple questions. And by asking those, I exposed just what sort of limitations we put around ourselves in terms of how we view what we do and our environment. So what do we do now? Now that we come face to face with this, how do we take advantage? And this is why I created what I call the slingshot framework. And of course, slingshot is reminiscent by design of what? Childhood playing. It's one of the most universal children toys, which is our fuel, if you like. This is our tool, our weapon even. And the framework allows us to now really leverage and systematically apply our creativity, our natural creativity that we have within us, because that's how we learn the world as children. It's there, it's just dormant. If we reconnect and systematically apply it, then we can do wonderful things. Then we are the ones shaping the future. And the slingshot framework really talks about just 3 key principles, 3 key things that I think drive our ability to really leverage creative thinking. The first is this idea of learning to always look for, search for, and identify the pain points of our target audience. What are pain points? Is those parts of their journey, their experience with us, that cause the most friction, the most frustration, the most disconnect. And every experience has a weakest point. So all you need to do is continuously find them, but not just fix them, transform them. See the second part of this is to transform them into points of delight and joy. So you take the worst part of the experience and you turn it to the best part of the experience. See how powerful that is? Take the weakest into the strongest. Second point is the idea of continuously stretching the definition of the value that you provide for your target audience. So never stop saying, this is all I do, because someone else will take that territory that you're willing to surrender. If you think about a company like Amazon, and I ask you what business they are in, you couldn't answer that in a traditional way in terms of any industry, because they don't see those boundaries. All they see is opportunities, and they look for what else can I do for my customers, or what new customers can I be relevant for. And the third is to embrace what I call the innovation shortcut, meaning that when you innovate, you don't have to invent. You don't ever have to be the first one to come up with something which is expensive and risky and resource intensive. Rather, you can look at your environment, again, as being full of components, full of Lego pieces, if you will, at your disposal to combine in new ways. So all you need to do is to look for new combinations of already existing components, whether things that you have personally or things that you can partner with. We're connected, all of us around the world, so everything that you could possibly want is now accessible to you if you look at the world this way. So, as a wrap-up, a call to action. I love this quote by Steve Forbes, who writes for Steve Denning, who writes for Forbes magazine. Said that a firm, and again, it could be any type of organization, it doesn't matter, doesn't find new ways to delight its customers, it creates them. What a wonderful sentence. So it's not about satisfying customers, delighting them. See that transition that I referenced earlier. And it's not a passive process, it's active. We have to create. In strategic thinking, what we have learned is there's no such a thing as a mature market space and a mature activity or industry. There's only an industry to which imagination hasn't been applied yet. So it's all about accessing this wonderful resource. And the second part, he said, is that the critical element is to apply imagination from the perspective of your target audience, your customers. If you do it that way, if you look at yourself from their perspective, then the opportunity to innovate is limitless. There are no boundaries, okay? So wonderful call to action. So what I'd like to leave you with is just my slogan, 4 words. 4 words. So I'm holding myself to the same standards that I ask you, you to do. And here it is. Number 1, take aim, meaning continuously harness this wonderful resource that we all have, our childlike creativity. It's there for you. Make use of it. Take aim. So always ask the what-if questions. Always go beyond and wonder and explore and look around your environment and think about ways that you can create something that has value to a target audience, either the one you already have or new ones. Second, launch. In other words, move forward. Have a way, a structure that actually allows you to build on this resource. And the Slingshot framework is one that would allow you to do that. So if you have the resource and a structure, then you have all you need. And lastly, remember that it's not a one-time process, but something that you need to do over and over again. So it's a way of continuously looking at your world and shaping the future. Thank you for your attention. I wish you much success. Thank you.